Hey everyone, my name is Alexandria, and today I'm going to be taking you on a tour of my recently converted 2009 Chevy Express bus with a Thomas body. It has 5 windows and a wheelchair access door inside, which makes it a perfect home for my dog Tara and I to live in and travel in full time. I'm so excited to show you guys around, so let's get started. So when you first walk in, this is what you will see. Pretty self-explanatory, and honestly, I did not modify the front portion of the bus that much. I do have a walking platform up here that I added specifically so that way when I first came in, I would have an area that I could put all of my dirty shoes, the dog bowls, all of that good stuff without getting the rest of the house dirty. I also left the original butterfly door handle. That's really popular for folks to modify, but the simplicity is great. The door functions and seals well, so I figured, why fix it if it's not broken? When I purchased the bus, unfortunately it did not come with a radio or stereo system. That's something that I might upgrade in the future to put a navigation system and also radio in. I would really like that for long road trips. But for now, we're just rocking with this little JBL speaker. I charge it typically with my Jackery that I also keep up front, and it's been great so far for long road trips, to listen to podcasts, and also to take outside with me whenever we get where we're going. When I was watching other bus tours, I noticed a lot of people modifying this front area to have a lot of wood, which looks really beautiful and is probably a great use of space for storage purposes, but I just didn't find it necessary. I have enough storage in the rest of the bus, and it's a bus at the end of the day, so keeping some of those original components like the Thomas insignia up front, some of the lights, and then obviously my mirror adjustments as well was way more important for me, and with my short timeline, it was something that I just did not decide to prioritize. Something that I did take the time to do though in this front area was add some shoe storage, because I could see myself coming in and just throwing my shoes around haphazardly. So to try to minimize the mess and to give myself some additional storage options for things like a bag, I have a jump rope in here, dog collar, and then shoes obviously. I just took a day or so to add in this little storage cubby, and I can say even with just being on the road for a few weeks that it has made a world of difference. And in addition, I have this little switch here. I think it's gonna mess up the lighting on the camera, but this is an entryway light, so that way when it's dark outside and I'm first entering the bus, I can have a light on and peace of mind knowing that I am the only one in here. Now when you first step inside the bus, one of the first things that you will notice is this shower room that I built. I'm about 5'6" and stepping inside. Obviously, lots of room, super comfortable, and I really enjoyed having this luxury on the road. It's not something I had in my last build. It wasn't necessarily something that I thought I would need, but I will say at this point, super happy to have it, and also really glad that I have a designated area for my dog Tara to ride in when we're on long drives. Building the shower was definitely something that I was a little bit nervous about because I had never done it before, and I was also really concerned about some of the horror stories that I had heard from folks having leaks, having tiles crack, break, just a host of issues that can happen with a shower. In order to try to prevent or mitigate these issues from happening, it's not foolproof, but so far so good. I went with a Curdy Schluter system, which I believe you can get at most Lowe's, Home Depot hardware stores. Essentially what it is a waterproof mesh barrier that goes up on the walls, that goes on the floors, and that acts as, I guess, just an additional barrier between your waterproofed plywood, your sealed floor, your tile, grout, mortar, etc., to make sure that you have the best chance possible of not having a leak somewhere and not having to deal with things like mold in the future. As happy as I am with the waterproofing, I have to say that my favorite part of the shower is the aesthetic, which seems kind of silly, but I'm absolutely in love with how the floor came out. I went with a natural colored river rock, and then I used featherweight concrete on the walls. All in all, my shower system weighs less than 30 pounds, which I was really happy with considering the, again, stories I had heard from folks putting in an entire tiled shower, weighing down their van or their bus, and ultimately having issues with cracking later on. This system should also be really low maintenance to keep up. I went back in with, I believe it's a Henry's 511 sealer impregnator, after finishing the entire shower, and I will continue to do that every 6 to 8 months, depending on use, to ensure that this stays as waterproof as humanly possible. So when designing this bench seating area, I had a few priorities in mind. I love to host people, so I wanted a big table area that could be moved out of the way if need be for more people to slide in. This table swivels completely around and out of the way. I don't want to hit the camera right now, so it's going to stay where it's at, but I did choose to go with the Lagoon mount, similar to my last build, and I'm loving it so far. To mount this table without it being in the way of the seating, I chose to go with an L-shaped design, even though it is a pretty small L-shaped design, which also afforded me a little bit more storage and space for me to put an emergency toilet. I also wanted to make sure that I had great window covers that not only blacked out daylight for mornings when I wanted to sleep in, but also prevented excess heat and cold from coming into the bus. And so thank you very much, Mom, for helping me work on and design these. I use these blackout curtains that I actually just picked up from Big Lots, and my mom helped me cut them into sizes that would fit on the windows and then tie up and out of the way when I wanted natural daylight. These will stay up while I'm driving, but typically I will put them down, as having the AC running and the windows open really defeats the purpose. But I think they're going to be great in winter when I do want some daylight and I do want to let some of those UV rays in to try to warm the place up. Now, in addition to this being a great place to eat, hang out with friends, and get some work done, it's also been an extremely functional storage space. You might have noticed earlier, but I don't have any above head cabinets because I wanted to preserve the openness of the space, since it's only 6 feet tall in here. And so the solution became finding storage in a bench seat. This first one here is very miscellaneous at this point. I have some things that I want to still do on the bus, so I have some work supplies, I have jumper cables, I have my little solar shower, which I use in the shower since I don't have any plumbed water. And then I also have some storage here for other appliances and things that I want to install later on the road, namely my heater. I did purchase a diesel heater. I think it's just the Chinese diesel heater option for about $150 that I think is going to work wonders in the winter when we are in cold environments. All right, moving back one bin. This is the Catchall. I have a lot in here, and as you can see, I even have more storage space, so if I were to continue to purchase things, build up a supply of any additional outdoor gear, or just need to store some things temporarily, this space will be great for just that. Now, I'm not going to show you every item. I have an awning, I have some yoga mats, I have wetsuits and snow gear in here, and then I also have some miscellaneous electronics for podcasting, shooting video, and so on. It's also a great place to store my little USB vacuum, which has been a godsend on the road. If you didn't know, I have a golden retriever and she sheds a lot, as golden retrievers do. And so this little USB vacuum really does the trick. In the future, I might upgrade to something a little bit larger, but for as small of a space as this is perfect for now. All right, and last but not least, I'm just gonna kind of blaze through this. You guys know how it goes. We have a toilet and toiletries space, and then in the back there, that is all of Tara's items. So I have treats, her harness, training tools, etc. With cooking and hosting being one of my big priorities, having a large sink and cooking space was also a huge priority for me. There's a lot of features that I love in the kitchen, but I'll start off with the sink, which is 10 inches wide and I believe 22 inches across. This is a massive upgrade compared to my 14 by 14 sink that I had in the van. And again, something I am so grateful that I upgraded to. Not only is it really nice to be able to wash larger things like pots and pans, but let's be honest, I don't always do my dishes right away. And so having a bit of a deeper sink that's set back instead of on the front portion of the countertop is really great for minimizing Tara getting into my dishes. Now, while we're in the kitchen, I can't help but talk about my beautiful green cabinets. Now, in my last build, I did hand make all of my cabinets, but that was just not something that I had the time for in this build, and I thankfully had dimensions that worked with pre-built cabinets. And so, as you've probably seen other bus builders do before, all of these cabinets and faces are from IKEA. They're modified slightly to fit my needs, so I did put my own custom risers on the bottom to get them to a height that not only worked better for me and the things I wanted to do, but that were also a little bit sturdier because IKEA traditionally comes with little plastic feet that, from my experience, break off quite easily. I also went with a non-IKEA countertop. I got this from Lowe's, and it's just the Havia wood, the lower cost, lighter weight option to get the butcher block look without the cost and the like 60-pound weight. One last thing that I will mention while I'm down here are these drawer sides. Obviously, this is the food cabinet. I got some chips, some coffee, some granola, and then I used magnetic locks on all of the edges. So far, that has worked okay, but I will be looking for a sturdier option. I originally thought that having 2 on each side would be enough, but it turns out it's not quite the case. So I think I'm going to be looking into some RV locker options, just so that way when I am driving on bumpy roads, around turns on the highway, I don't have to worry about these drawers flying out. Now, the thing that takes up the most space in the kitchen is by far this 21-inch Greystone stovetop and oven. As much as I want to sing its praises, I will be honest, I have not used it yet because I currently have a small leak in my propane box. Thankfully, it's contained, the box is sealed and vented out the bottom, but until I get that fixed, I won't be using it, so stay tuned, I guess, to hear how it works for me. But I do have a lot of friends who really love it. I know that it works. I have lit it and turned it on before, but no frozen pizzas for me quite yet. And since we're talking appliances, I figured I would hop down on the floor and just show you guys my fridge because I feel like it's a less conventional option for builds these days and definitely different than what I did last time around. I'd say one of the most common options these days is to go with a 12-volt fridge over a 120-volt fridge like you would find in a home, but I did end up going with the 120-volt just based on price. For this build, I'm planning on being in it for a lot longer. I don't have any plans to sell the bus right now, and so I wasn't thinking so much about resale value as I was my own budget. So because of that, I skipped the $1,300 fridge that I had in my last build, and I instead went with a $190 mini fridge from Best Buy. But yeah, so far so good. Really happy with my purchase, and I told myself in the future, if I ever changed my mind, it would be really easy to swap this out, modify the cabinet a little bit, and put in that 12-volt option. Now, the least practical portion of this build by far is this large mirror. I believe it's 24 by 32, which is huge. I mean, by mirror standards, but especially bus build or van build mirror standards. And when I found this one, I knew that it was the one, not only because it fit perfectly, but also because it was only $40. I knew that if something happened to this, as things do on the road, I'm not gonna cry over $40. So I did choose this option to hide my closet, which you can see here. This is all of the clothes that I own with the exception of my wetsuits and snow gear that are again in that big area underneath my bench. If I did need to add additional clothing space for one reason or another in the future, I could. Most of these shelves are half depth or half height, and so it would be easily adjustable just with the removal of some brackets. Now coming into the bedroom area, a bed is a bed. There's not really a whole lot that's special back here, but I will say that I did go with a full-sized mattress, so that way in the future, if I needed to replace it, if it starts to sag, or if there's a new owner one day who wants to replace it, it would be very easy to just swap out for a standard full mattress. The other benefits of choosing a regular full-size mattress is that it was only $120. So again, keeping that budget in mind, it was super friendly to the overall cost of the build and really comfortable. Now that does cover the bulk of the living area, but before we pop into the garage, I did want to talk power really quick. I did just mention that I have a 120-volt fridge that does pull a lot more power than your standard 12-volt fridge that you would see in most vans. And in order to offset that, I made sure to not overpower any of my other systems. So I do have 3 plugs around the bus that are 120 volts, and each of those has 2 attachment points. My inverter is 2000 watts, but at any one time, I try not to have all of those plugs occupied and my fridge running, because the last thing that I want to do is overload that inverter and have to dig it out of my garage to fix it. To offset that, I have a lot of USB plugs around the bus as well that run off of a 12-volt system, and then this light actually has a 12-volt plug-in as well, so at night when I want to charge my phone, I don't have to worry about pulling off of the inverter. The other typical large pull on a build is usually the water system, and that would really really come into play if you have something like a hot water heater. I opted to not go with a hot water heater in this build, especially because my shower is not plumbed. I didn't see the need for it, and that saved a ton of power and space. So really the only other things that pull in my system are my 12-volt SureFlow water pump, my LED lights that are extremely efficient and run the length of the bus, and then my 2 puck lights up in the front, one in the shower, one in the entryway. So pretty low power draw overall, and up until this point I have not seen my batteries go below 80%. Up on the roof I have 400 watts of solar that power my 400 amp hours of lithium ion batteries from Renogy. Before you comment that that is not enough, I'm aware. I also have an alternator to alternator charger that I will use as a backup. Alright, enough about the boring details, let's go take a look at the garage. So I'm not going to take too much time to go into detail in the garage because it's pretty simple. It holds everything that I need. I have a shelf up here for helmets and shoes. I have a mount and a lock for my bike, and then I have all of my backpacking gear. If you're wondering why I have so much, I run a nonprofit, if you didn't already know that, leading backpacking camping trips, which means that I have about 5 sets of complete backpacking and camping gear. A lot of space is being taken up by that right now, and I'm hoping to get better organization in the future to minimize that, but it works for now. In addition, on the other side that you can't really see right now, and no, I'm not gonna dump out everything, I'm sorry, I have a 42-gallon water tank, I have a paddle board, I have my inlet for my water, and then I also have a light right up in the middle that actually doesn't have batteries in it yet, but once it does, I will have light back here as well. In addition, I have my whole power system just along the back of the wall here that's mounted extremely securely through 2 sheets of 3/4 inch ply to make sure that it won't go anywhere, and so far, so good. If you stuck around until the end, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you spending a part of your day with me. I hope that you enjoyed the build, and if you want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more bus life and our adventures on the road. Alright you guys, I'll see you next week. Bye.